One aspect of technique that often gets overlooked by beginner guitarists when they first start learning is the position or the placement of the fretting hand thumb on the neck. In this lesson, I'm going to take you through two different methods for resting your fretting hand thumb, the two main techniques. I'm going to show you applications for both techniques, and I'm going to show you how I incorporate both styles into my own guitar playing. First of all, let's have a look at why the placement of the fretting hand thumb is important on the guitar. Whether you're playing acoustic, electric, or classical, or whatever style of music you're playing, your fretting hand thumb has to rest somewhere on the neck. This is mainly in order to give you something to press back against as you're pressing down on the strings. One of the mistakes that beginners often make when they're first learning is that they don't rest their thumb anywhere on the neck, or that they think it's a bad thing in order to do so. So I often get situations like this where beginners will be trying to tuck their thumb underneath their fingers while they're fretting and while they're pressing down on the strings. You don't want to do this. Your thumb has to rest somewhere. And the two main places, the two main styles, the two main techniques that you'll come across is either thumb over the top like this, or thumb behind the neck, behind the frets like this. We're going to have a look at both fretting hand thumb placements, and we're going to have a look at the advantages and the disadvantages of both methods. So let's start with number one. This is going to be the thumb over the top technique. This is sometimes referred to as the contemporary thumb position. You will often see this thumb technique in styles such as rock, pop, blues. In fact, sometimes it's even called the rock position. So to do that, you're going to grip the guitar like this, and you're going to make almost like a pincer type movement, like this with your thumb and your first finger. The neck rests in your hand like this, and your fingers come over the guitar, arch like this, over the neck, and placed on the fingerboard like so. You can use this position while playing chords like this. As you can see with all those chord shapes, my thumb was still over the top. It's my fingers that arch and do all of the work. So essentially my thumb wraps around the guitar fingerboard like this. So this thumb position has a lot of advantages, particularly if you're playing contemporary music. You'll find you have a lot more control when you're bending strings, and when you're placing vibrato on the end of a note like that, particularly during a string bend. This is because you've got such a good grip on the guitar, and it just gives you more control over things like vibrato, slides, and it does feel quite comfortable. This is quite a natural way to hold something in your hand between your thumb and your finger like this. You will have a lot of dynamic control with your thumb in this position, and you'll probably find you're able to become more expressive as a result. An added bonus is that the thumb can also act as a mute for certain strings when you're executing certain chords or lead work. So in that example before, when I was doing a string bend, I could mute unwanted strings, particularly the low two strings, the E string and the A string, with my thumb wrapped over the top of the neck like that. As you can see, the thumb rests well over the E string and the A string, which means that those strings aren't going to sound unwanted when I bend the string, or if I accidentally hit them with my pick on my right hand. I can also use this same thumb technique to mute unwanted strings when I'm playing open chords, such as this D chord here. Even if I do accidentally hit the wrong strings with my strumming hand, my thumb is wrapped all the way over on the E string and the A string, meaning that they will be naturally muted. I can do the same thing for the C. You can see that my thumb pops up a little bit. It's out the way enough, it rests on the E string, which in turn mutes it at the same time. And if I need to play a chord where I'm using all 6 strings, I simply move my thumb slightly out the way. It still rests here, it just doesn't touch that string. Another benefit of having your thumb over the top is that as you get more advanced and more used to playing the guitar, you can even use your thumb to fret bass notes in chords like this. So if you're a fan of Hendrix or John Mayer or John Frusciante, you'll often see those guys will wrap their thumb over the top of the guitar like this and press down on the low E string in order to fret the full chord, rather than doing a bar chord shape like that. As you can see the thumb is fretting the low E string while the other fingers on my fretting hand are fretting the chord. This also frees up additional fingers on my fretting hand to perform embellishments such as this. So that's a rundown of the thumb over the top, or the contemporary thumb position on the guitar. Now let's move on to the second technique or method for where to place your fretting hand thumb on the neck. This is the classical position, or the thumb behind the neck position, like this. So in example number 1, my thumb was wrapped all the way around. For example number 2, I'm going to change my hand position like this. My thumb drops behind the frets. My fingers come over and arched like this. You can press down with the side of the finger if you're just fretting individual notes in this position. And there's a gap or distance between the palm of your hand and the neck. So you're not actually placing any of the neck in the palm of your hand. You're still creating this pinching motion with your thumb and your first finger, and you're still providing your first finger for something to press against, something to squeeze against, but you're not actively holding the neck in the palm of your hand as you were in example number 1. The thumb behind the neck example is perfect for people who play classical guitar. If you were taking classical guitar lessons, you would be taught to play in that style almost exclusively. It's also great for people who generally just can't wrap their thumb over the top of the guitar neck like this, of which I've taught quite a few. In that respect, I would teach them to place the thumb behind the neck, as they will find it easier. I think if you've got smaller hands, you may prefer to use that method if you can't, or if it just generally feels uncomfortable. The thumb behind the neck, or the classical guitar position, can also be adopted when you're playing open chords. So in this example, my thumb is directly behind the frets as I'm fretting that C chord like this. This enables my fingers to really arch and get out of the way of each other like that. I'll show you a few more chords. Here's what a D chord looks like with my thumb behind the fretboard. And here's what a G chord looks like. This method is also perfect for bar chords. You must put your thumb behind the frets and behind the neck in order to fret bar chords properly. Unfortunately, it's really difficult to play bar chords with your thumb over the top like this. Almost impossible, in fact. Another advantage I've found of having your thumb behind the neck is that it makes it much easier to use your pinky finger when you're playing scales or runs or other patterns, as I demonstrated earlier. So if you have your thumb wrapped over the top of the guitar in the first example like this, and you try to stretch and use your pinky finger, so for example, I'm going to play a sequence of notes that goes 5, 7, 9 on the D and 5, 7, 9 on the G. You have to introduce extra hand movement in order to be able to play that. Unless, of course, you have really long fingers, which most of us do not. The other problem with this position and performing wide stretches like that is that I can already feel it starting to pull on this muscle down here in my fingers and in my hand, which if I do too much of that, may result in some kind of injury, like repetitive strain injury or even worse. And that's something we definitely want to avoid. If I perform the same scale sequence with my thumb behind the frets like this, so 5, 7, 9 on the D, 5, 7, 9 on the G, there's less actual hand movement, which makes it more efficient, and more importantly, there's less strain or pulling or tension in my hand as I'm performing those movements. It's perfectly comfortable, and I don't feel like I'm going to strain or pull any kind of muscle anytime soon. So as a guitar player, I would encourage you to experiment with both positions. Try placing your thumb in both positions as you're going through your exercises, scales, songs and chords early on in your guitar development. Experiment with, does it feel more comfortable to have your thumb over the top like this, or does it feel more comfortable to put your thumb behind the guitar in this position? You have two choices. Some people may prefer to leave their thumb in just one of the two positions throughout the entire duration of their guitar playing life, which is absolutely fine, and there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just whatever gives you the best results. However, you may find that, like myself, you tend to flip between the two different positions and you tend to use them both extensively. The way I tend to do it is that for most of the time, my thumb is in this position, in the contemporary position. That's mainly because I play contemporary music such as rock, pop, blues, soul, and funk, and jazz. I've also always found it more comfortable in this position, and I also do a lot of string bends and a lot of expressive playing, which really helps give me the dynamic control that I'm after. You will also find that a lot of guitar players who play in that style also play with their thumb in this position. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them do. So it helps to be able to mimic their technique and mimic their position when you're trying to mimic their styles. However, I do have to place my thumb behind the neck in order to perform bar chords effectively like this. There's no other way around it. I also must place my thumb behind the fretboard if I'm using my pinky finger a lot or using my pinky finger at all. And if I'm performing any wide stretches which need me to use my pinky finger, such as going from fret 1 to fret 5 or fret 5 to fret 10, even stretches like this are much more comfortable with your thumb behind the fretboard, like this, rather than if you try to do the same stretch with your thumb over the top of the guitar. So I hope that helps. I hope that you are able to incorporate both positions into your playing and you're able to become comfortable with playing in both styles. Remember that mastering your thumb placement on your fretting hand on the guitar is absolutely crucial to your success on the instrument. Practice as often as you can and try and experiment with the different positions while playing different things and see what works best for you. I hope you found this lesson useful today. If you did, then please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to never miss one of my lessons. And until next time, thank you very much. I'm Paul Burke. Take care and enjoy guitar playing. Thank you.